When someone describes a mentally tough person, what comes to mind? For most, this may conjure up an image of someone who looks strong in the face of adversity, endures pain without flinching, and pushes through hardship with gritted teeth and clenched fists. The idea of mental toughness seems to imply a stoic refusal to give in, even at the cost of one's own well-being. But if mental toughness truly is about enduring intense physical or psychological strain without giving up, then there's a good chance that many of us are already mentally tough because we do this all the time. And yet most of us still burn out. So maybe the conventional idea of mental toughness has it backward. Maybe true mental toughness isn't about enduring pain, but rather about learning how to treat ourselves when we're in pain. In fact, research suggests that being hard on ourselves when we're struggling is what weakens our resilience, whereas being kind to ourselves during a challenge is what makes us mentally tougher. So let's explore how being hard on ourselves causes us to crumble and how being kind to ourselves helps us to endure. We all have an inner critic, that nagging voice in our heads telling us everything we're doing wrong, pointing out every mistake, emphasizing every failure, and attacking any shortcoming. When life gets tough, this inner critic gets louder and more judgmental, which makes sense. After all, our brain's job is to keep us safe. And to do that, it will try to minimize the chances of us messing up again by making us afraid of messing up again. Unfortunately, this works against us. Research shows that fearing failure prevents us from trying new things and from taking the necessary risk to succeed. This phenomenon is called the Einstellung effect, or Einstellung effect, which literally translates from German to the Einstellung effect. When we fixate on past failures, we become blind to new possibilities and we stop growing. And when we're stuck, we burn out. Now, if you find yourself struggling to achieve your goals, how might you respond? If you're like most people, you might start berating yourself. You might call yourself lazy or stupid or worse. And when you're feeling awful, the last thing you want to do is take action. Your mind is focused on the negative and you feel helpless to do anything about it. But what if instead of beating yourself up, you treated yourself with kindness and understanding? Would that help? Surprisingly, yes. When we show ourselves compassion, we tell ourselves that we're only human. We allow ourselves to make mistakes and we accept that sometimes we will fail. When we don't meet our own expectations or someone else's expectations of us, we can remind ourselves that we did our best under the circumstances and that we can do better next time. When we adopt this mindset, we lose our fear of failure and we're able to bounce back from setbacks more quickly. Instead of blaming ourselves for failing, we learn from our failures. Instead of getting stuck in the mud of despair, we pull ourselves together and get back into action. In fact, researchers peg self-compassion as one of the main ingredients to mental toughness, right alongside grit and optimism. In a study published in the Journal of Social and Personal Relationships, researchers assessed 147 Australian adults using a survey. They wanted to see if they could identify personality traits that predict mental toughness. And their results showed that self-compassion was just as powerful as conscientiousness, extroversion, neuroticism, and openness to experience. In other words, being compassionate towards yourself can make you mentally tougher than someone who has all the right personality traits. It's important to note that while the research suggests that self-compassion is an essential part of mental toughness, it doesn't mean that being hard on yourself is never useful. According to researcher Rick Hansen, sometimes it can be helpful to have high standards and push ourselves. Just as a coach pushes a sports team to practice harder and perform better, our inner critic can help motivate us to be productive and achieve our goals. But it can also demotivate us, especially if we're already struggling. How do we know when the line between constructive criticism and destructive self-attack has been crossed? Dr. Hansen says that when we start calling ourselves names, that's a clear sign that we've gone too far. Name calling shuts down our minds and it blocks our ability to problem solve. So if you find yourself struggling to achieve your goals or endure a difficult situation, try practicing self-compassion. Here are 3 easy ways to do so. First, talk to yourself like you would talk to a friend. Imagine that your best friend is going through a tough time. What would you say to them? How would you respond if they came to you defeated and discouraged? Odds are you wouldn't blame them and you wouldn't attack them for their shortcomings. You'd probably offer words of comfort and encouragement. Now imagine that you're talking to yourself. Would you speak to yourself the way you speak to your best friend? Chances are that you wouldn't. You might be less forgiving of yourself than you are of your friends. You might blame yourself for your failures or call yourself names when you're feeling down. Instead, why not treat yourself the way you would treat a friend? A study published in Clinical Psychology Review found that self-compassion reduces the negative effects of failure and helps us reframe our thinking. So instead of saying, "What's wrong with me? I suck at this," you could say, "This isn't going well, but I'll figure it out." Or, "I'm doing my best. Everyone makes mistakes." Reframing our thoughts in this way helps us to detach from our failures, and it allows us to learn from our mistakes without getting stuck in the mud of despair. Second, normalize your struggles. There's a common misconception that successful people go through life without ever experiencing struggles. This couldn't be further from the truth. Every single person experiences hardships, even the most successful people on earth. The difference between those who succeed and those who struggle is that those who succeed normalize their struggles. They don't let their problems pile up and become insurmountable. They don't let their embarrassment and shame grow into feelings of helplessness. Instead, they normalize their struggles by acknowledging their difficulties, by accepting that they're only human, and by reminding themselves that everyone goes through hard times. And third, calm down. Easier said than done, right? Well, easier said than done, but possible. Burnout happens when we run on empty. We push ourselves relentlessly without taking time to recharge our batteries. As a result, we become emotionally volatile, easily irritated, and prone to giving up. How do we avoid this? Simple. We refuel. When we feel ourselves starting to burn out, we need to engage in activities that restore our physical and emotional energy. We need to do things that help us relax and that bring us joy. Well, these can be big things or small things. It doesn't matter. What matters is that we take the time to do them. Some people go for a walk, others listen to music. Still, others spend time with loved ones. What brings you joy? When you know what does, make sure to schedule it into your day. Set aside time to unwind and recharge your batteries. When you come back to your work or your studies, you'll be better equipped to handle any challenges that come your way. The bottom line, being mentally tough isn't about pushing through pain. In fact, pushing through pain usually causes us to burn out. Mental toughness comes from treating ourselves with kindness and compassion, especially when we're struggling. So the next time you find yourself feeling overwhelmed, take a deep breath and remember that you're only human. Give yourself the same compassion you would give to a friend, and you'll be amazed at what you can accomplish. Have you ever struggled with being mentally tough? If so, how did you overcome these struggles? Share your story in the comments below. We appreciate hearing your stories. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe and leave a like. As always, thanks for watching.